Everybody wants to find the perfect match for their financial needs. Secured savings, stress-free access to affordable loans, instant mobile money transfers to MTN and Orange Cameroon, and even a share in the profits as a member owner. For over 7 years, Rencam Credit Union has been the perfect match for Cameroonians living in the UK and other nationals with interest in the Cameroonian heritage. Visit rencam.co.uk. Join Rencam Credit Union today, achieving success together. Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Woman Experience with me, your host, Goretti. Good evening, guys. Thank you so much for spending your Wednesday evening with us. That was Ndolo by the very beautiful Daphne and the one and only Bendeka. And the reason why we chose Daphne's song tonight is just because if you've been on social media these past few days, you could not have missed Daphne's story. Daphne shared a really personal story from her life about the effects of rape on her over more than 10 years later, and how much it's affected the woman she is and the woman she has become as a result of that rape. And so tonight, yes, we're talking about rape. As you can see from our flyer, we're talking about rape because unless you have been living under a rock, the number of rape stories that we have been bombarded with recently, let me say the past couple of months on social media, is enough to make you think like, what is going on? And if you're like me, you will be very naive to think that maybe all of this rape is just a recent occurrence in our communities. Well, if you're like me, trust me, you'll be very, very wrong, because rape has been a phenomenon in our or in my opinion, and I think I shared that with Ngum, I guess one of our guests of tonight. It's been a phenomenon in our community, our societies for so long. In my personal opinion, I think that it is a pandemic, an epidemic, because way before social media, I'm sure if you look back, especially if you're a girl child watching this or a woman now, just go back to your childhood. Think of all those people that were termed bad people in your communities, those young men or women that your mother, your friends told you not to go next to, or those men that were openly accepted as rapists, or he looks under your skirt, or he will touch you in bad places. And go back again to that and think about how many times you were sexually harassed as a young girl, as a teenager, you know. And when you think about things like that, you begin to realize that we come from a society where sexual abuse, sexual harassment, and dare I say, rape has been normalized. Has been normalized. Today we're going to be talking about rape, and but we are not going to focus too much on the act, but work together to a solution. Because my guests were talking behind the scenes, there's too much of, we know that this is going on, we know that this is going on, then what? We talk about it on social media, we talk, you know, every different platform holds something, we talk about it, and then what? And then it dies a natural death, nothing else happens, and then a couple of months later we're back to talking about it. So I think for the purpose of this conversation tonight, we're going to be very solutions focused, but before we get to solutions, we are also really going to address rape apologists, because and I do know, for those of you who saw my post earlier, I think that was yesterday or the day before yesterday, I posted an open letter by an acclaimed blogger, Delhi, you know, who responded to Daphne's story. We're going to talk about that a bit more in details, but I personally hold an opinion on that, and I'm not afraid to share my opinion tonight, because yeah, I mean, I feel very strongly about it, and I get the added advantage that this is my platform, right? So every once in a while, you should know exactly how I feel about certain things. So we're going to talk about that. But firstly, I am so glad, again, like I said, that you're spending the evening with me. And I am just going to, last week, I was able to introduce you to part one of my short film on mental health series, which was inspired by the mental health series that we did here a few months ago. Saturday, we celebrate World Mental Health Day, Saturday, October 10th. And so in commemoration of that day, I am going to play part two. But instead of part two, I'm just going to play the whole film as one. It's not very long. It's just 10 minutes. So stay with me, and yeah, let me know what you think. So bear with me while I bring that on. Enjoy. Daniel. 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 What's wrong? What's wrong? Are you okay? Are you crying? What's wrong? What's wrong with yours? What's yours? Daniel. Rose. Just give me my phone. Seriously, just give me my phone. So, what would I do if the community finds out I'm so indebted? No, I can't. I need to fix this. And I must fix this.
How's your day today?
Day. How's your day?
Good.
Yeah? I'm gonna get out of this.
See you later.
Okay. It's great. What have you been up to?
Just relaxing. Is she trying to disrespect me in my own house? Does she even love you? Look at the way she looks at you these days. There is this disdain in her eyes. Wait, what if she's cheating on me? Why would she look at me like that? Nah, she can't cheat on me. I told you, I am the man of this house. Stupid, selfish woman that doesn't even care what I'm going through. I have put her in her place. Now she knows who's boss. Stupid, silly woman. I'll show you never to deny me my rights. I'll show you I am the man of this house. Nonsense. Stop that now. No, no, no. I'll show you who's the boss here. Oh my God, she hates me. Oh my God, have I done? Oh, my poor baby. It's me.
Hi, guys. Welcome back. So that was my interpretation of the mental health series that we just concluded a few weeks ago, few months ago. But I'm just gonna bring my guest off tonight. I've got the one and only barrister Maitre Maria Banga, psychotherapist Maria Banga here tonight. Hi, Marie. Joining us from Ghana.
Hello.
And the one and only Ngum. Hi, Ngum.
Hi. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, guys. Good evening. So, wow. Let me hear your thoughts. Let me hear your thoughts. I'll start with Marie because I want to thank you on behalf of all of you who were part of the mental health series. I want to thank you very much for sharing. And I'm a filmmaker. I'm an artist, and in my own contribution, this was my contribution to that conversation that we had. That I think was really powerful. So thank you. And yeah, what do you think?
Wow. In 10 minutes, you kind of captured it all. I mean, that is so impressive.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Ngum?
I watched the 4-part series and I really see something of each of those series in there. That's good.
Thank you. Angum, what did you make of it?
Oh, I thought it was brilliant. I was looking at this as a fun, and I mean, I like you always do very topical stuff, Goretti, as you know. I couldn't help looking at this with the eyes of a critic. So can I read you my notes? I like
She has no. Go on, Ngum.
no, I think because we're talking about a dark topic,
Yeah,
mental health.
yeah.
Shouldn't be, but a lot of time when you think of mental health, you think of something negative. So two things I really liked. I liked the sound. There was this the music. The choice of music was very good because it was just like this pulsating thing. You know how in movies when something is about to happen, so you're
Mm-hmm,
always like, okay, what's going to happen? I had that kind of nervous anticipation. I
mm-hmm.
like that the dialogue was not a lot because I think when people are going through depression, they don't talk much.
Yeah,
So I like that that was really communicated. I also like the fact that the lighting was dim. There
yeah,
wasn't a lot of light. Again, I don't know about other people, but I've had moments in my life which have been dark.
yeah.
And you really, it's dark, you know, and that rain. I mean, if you've lived in the UK or you've lived in Manchester of all places, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Yeah, I'll stop there for now.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that detailed critique. I appreciate that. Thank you. And guys, especially those of you who have been a part of the woman experience, what did you make? Let's hear your feedback. What did you make of it? And Marie, while they tell us about this, I'm coming back to you just because again tonight we're talking about things that you're strongly involved in. So we talked about um the short film was on mental health. I would just want you to just give us a little recap of, if you can remember, of what you spoke about during that time, and if somebody is going through this, how what they can do to help.
Okay, anyway, I'm going to stick to the movie. I remember talking about the triggers. I remember talking first of all about the flags, about the signs, the build up. I remember talking about the ways, the reaction that you can pay attention to, and we see that in the man and even in the woman when she starts becoming kind of like consent and she
Mm-hmm,
wants to go check at the window, and the man, that's when the abuse takes off. That is when the man too has it has built up in him, and he has to release that anger, that frustration and everything, and he takes that out on the wife.
mm-hmm.
And then, well, it gets to the point where even in the bedroom now he has to violate her. So
Yeah,
you see how it manifests itself now. But it started with, I don't know what triggered it for the man, but it looks like it was some business thing or something, I don't know.
for the purpose of our story, it was debt. It was
Oh,
he
a
had
debt.
this debt.
He
Yes,
owed somebody.
he owed a lot of people.
Oh, okay. Wow. So, and then you get back to that before contracting those debts. Did he talk to his wife or to his partner? We were looking at all of those things.
Yeah,
How it's good to your support system.
Yeah.
It's good to not bite more than you can chew. Yeah, it's good to sleep because his eyes were so red, like he hasn't been sleeping at all. And I don't joke with my sleep, for example. So anything that is going to take my sleep away, yeah, so that's what I think, that it's very important for us to pay attention to all of these details and know that anything can trigger an outburst because
Yeah.
we are all sensitive, right, in
Yeah.
different regards. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So for I mean, carrying on from what you said. So I just tried to, like I said, I picked up on all especially when you guys talked about triggers, the ways that, men, especially men, tend to not talk about their emotional distressed, what it is they are going through, be it just the normal stress or depression or whatever. Men are just generally not very communicative, and I think I just wanted to do a visual portrayal of what it means not to be communicative and how badly it can end up if you do not address it as soon as you can. So that would be
It-
for me. But I also want to, without mentioning names, I want to thank all those men who were courageous enough to send me private messages saying, Goretti, you told my story in one way or the other. I just want you to know that we see you, we know you are there, and it is very important to communicate. Like a lot of you said to me, you communicate, you learn that you need to talk about it, but you're men, yes, but we need to communicate. It is not, it's a really tough world out here. And the first step to healing starts with communication. So thank you very much, Marie. Thank you guys so much for the wonderful comments. TWE tribe, you guys are amazing. Yes, yes, it is. I thank you guys for being here. So Ngum, we've lost Ngum. She's joining us from London, but we've lost her. But I hope that she'll join us. That Marie is joining us. So Marie, while waiting for Ngum to come, we're just going to go and talk about this about rape, because, and you know how strongly I feel about that. And I think the reason I contacted, by the way, I just need you guys to know that I contacted Marie and Ngum just this morning to say we needed to address this. And the reason why I felt the need to address it was because you all remember when Daphne shared her story. This is Daphne, whose music we played at the beginning, and we all love our Daphne. She's a Cameroonian musician and one of the really popular, not just popular, she's really good at what she does. And she shared a really personal a story of hers about abuse. She was raped as a child, and it affected the woman she is today. She says words like, um, I was raped as a child by someone whom I don't remember. I've lived through a series of depressions, anxiety, panic attacks, and a deterioration of my health due to the trauma I've been through. She suffers from panic attacks and throws up every time she tries to get intimate. And this is 10 years later. And as a result of this rape, for over 10 years, she's been unable to be intimate. But if you know Daphne's public life, as a public performer, Daphne is very sexual in the way she presents herself. She's a hot girl. I would use that term, and I think I will be justified in using that term. Daphne is very hot, and so as a result, immediately after that, she got like a rebuttal after she shared her very, very, will I say, vulnerable story with us. The next day, she put up a picture on social media thanking us, but then she put up another one with her dressed like this. Where is it? With her dressed like that, and she said it's Monday. Just because I had the courage to tell my story, what to share the story of what happened to me as a child does not mean that I am going to change the way I dress up. And obviously, so many people had so many things to say about that. Ngumi's back. Her story, Tessie's asking, her story is on her page. I saw it on her Instagram page. So she got reviewed by quite a few women. There was one particular one that was so nauseating, from a fellow woman who said, if I be man, any indecent dressing with breasts and buttocks exposed, I rape the thing. Nonsense. So basically, what am I going to say? Oh, Ngum, hi, welcome. So basically blaming the victim for being raped.
because she assumed that if you dress like Daphne does nowadays, you deserve to be raped. And then we also there was just a lot on social media, and it really hurt me because I call them rape apologies. They're, to me, and this is not. I need to make this clear. We are not here to have a debate about whether Daphne is justified in dressing the way she does after having shared such a vulnerable story, or whether victims should be raped. We are not having that debate. I am saying that there is no excuse for rape, none whatsoever. And before I bring Marie and Gum on, I just want to say this is my stance. So quote me anywhere. There is no excuse. You cannot put the onus of somebody being raped on the victim. No, it doesn't matter if the victim walks naked. There is no excuse. But that's my point. I've said it. Maria Banga, over to you.
I was excited before we came on, and then you're just talking now, and I've forgotten what I even wanted to say. It's like I'm so much on the field that when it's time to talk, either I'm so emotional or I'm speechless, and also because, well, I'm not more a victim, but I've been there, and I've been through so much, so I have to take care of myself too. But with the particular cases which have come up recently, and it seems Daphne's case has taken the limelight because, well, she's the celebrity amongst all the cases, So, and then the backlash, I'm like, whatever is, I didn't expect people to still think that way in 2020, especially women, right? And women like this lady, I think they say she's an ex-commissioner, or she has a security company or something like that. I'm like, I don't know if she has children, and if her daughter, her daughter wants to start dressing up whichever way, then that daughter should better know that her mother will condone it if somebody rapes her because of her dressing. And Daphne said she was raped as a child. Was that how she was dressing at that time? I talked with you, I've shared with you, I've worked with over 33 children who have been victims of rape. None of those children were dressed in any of those way, Bobby show and whatsoever. Today, I have all of those things. I show them who has done what to me, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's like it makes no sense at all. I actually wrote this today to do something because somebody is doing a collage of videos. Rape is wrong. No to victim blaming. Rape is wrong. Full stop. I mean, we will get to what the law says and all of that. For me, it is wrong. If not, it would not have been punished. It would not be. It would not be even chastised in the Bible. It would not be. It is wrong. Don't do it.
It is wrong, period. What do you have to say to that, what do you have to add?
I think you both have covered very good points. And I would just like to pick up on the point you made about Daphne, how she dresses and how her music. Sometimes people feel that because you portray a certain thing, Daphne is an artist, right? And sometimes people feel like if you portray a certain thing, then they have the right to judge you. I mean, when I was a teenager, you should have seen my skirts, okay? They were not they were not long skirts. But at the same time, I was a very nerdy student. I was in many ways conservative. But then if you just looked at me, you would judge me another way. So this idea that you have the right to judge somebody based on how they're dressed is nonsensical. And also back to the Miss Isoka person, this woman runs a security company. I'm very scared, okay? Because what are security people supposed to do? Protect you, protect women from rape. If the president of a security company condones rape, God help me with how that company is run. So I have no confidence in her whatsoever.
Lydia says that I think that where's Lydia? Lydia says I think Daphne was very courageous in posting that follow-up picture because it made the point that nobody deserves to be raped regardless of their choice of dress. And this is a very powerful point to me because what would you say about those who rape babies or all of these victims that Marie has been working with, these children, 33 children? that Marie has worked with so far that have been sexually abused, raped. Look at a baby. What would you say? How did that baby dress for you to want to defend that?
It's painful. It's just looking at those
It's
children.
pathetic.
I don't even know what to say because, and this is why I think when we're talking backstage, we were saying that, certainly for me, I knew of rape as a phenomenon before I even knew that that word existed. And this is probably the case for many of these children because you just saw so much inappropriateness. And also, it's also this thing that people feel because Daphne doesn't remember who raped her.
Yeah.
Marie will probably be able to answer more of this as a psychotherapist. It is very possible that she just, closed her memory to it.
She blocked it.
Coping mechanism.
Yeah.
It is very possible that it's just a buried memory. And for people, I think that what shocked me with the lack of empathy for Daphne was that, she's actually talked about physical issues that she's facing as a result of this, right? She now has a psychological problem that manifests itself in a physical way. I first came across the concept of vaginismus in a textbook when I was at university. I was just curious. I used to love reading psychology books, and I came across this condition called vaginismus, and I was like, "Whoa, what's this?" But literally, people, I mean, maybe people didn't understand. Let me explain. Vaginismus is literally a case where a forced entry into the vagina will cause the muscles to close up to try to protect the person. And because there's a thing called muscle memory, your muscles remember. So if somebody tried again to enter that canal, whether they were doing it in the nicest way, the muscles just think, oh gosh, last time this was aggression, we'll close up again. It can take a long time. It can take therapy. It can take, psychotherapy. It can take physical therapy with vaginal dilators and things like that to get that person back to where they need to be. So this is no joke. It's not a pleasant condition. It can be quite painful. So this woman is not, she's not making this up. I feel for her. I really do.
Marie, I was reading a post. I think it was by Tres Catos, and there was a guy on there who was trying to take the position of the Cameroon law on rape, and he said that there are only 2 instances in which rape is you can get away with raping somebody in Cameroon. So there are actually instances, which shocked me. But anyway, he said that you have to be drunk or you're mad. So if a drunk man rapes a girl, he gets a pass. If a mad person rapes somebody, they get a pass. Can you corroborate that? Is that true?
No, I cannot corroborate that, and I've never seen that, and I don't want to be quoted as having even heard that, So if he put the sections there, then we can go and check. I have my code with me. It is not there. Now, let me say something. Generally, when you commit a crime, there's something they call attenuating circumstances, mitigating circumstances. So things that you can use to explain, and they can say, okay, well, insanity and stuff like that, but you have to prove those things beyond reasonable doubt. So it's not only with regards to rape, regards to any criminal offense. But now, when I look at section 296 on rape, there's no circumstance there where you can say if the man was drunk or if the man was mad. No. So, sometimes anybody can write anything and then people take that and fly, yeah.
So just for the purpose of our audience again, Marie, can you please, you are in Cameroon, and a lot of, especially the recent case of poor Minette, who was raped to her death. What does the law legally? What can her parents do in that case?
Oh my goodness! It's sad that in the case of Minette, well, they have already said she died due to a cardiac arrest, and the case is closed. And this is Cameroon. It's so unfortunate. The parents can reopen the case, and insist for another post-mortem, but that's money. So I think Minette is gone. We have to learn the lessons from Minette's case, and then we look at what we can do next time if we ever find ourselves in that situation, as we will say, God forbid, but one can never tell. The law is there, it's just that it is not really applied, or people don't even know. And unfortunately, maybe somebody like that woman, I don't even know her name again, but she was an ex-commissioner, as I see there.
Mm-hmm.
They might be the ones who encourage people to settle these cases, out of the police station. I have personally gone to police stations with victims where they have been advised to settle it out of court, or some families that have been met right in their homes and said, no, don't take this thing up, we'll cover the medical bills, we'll pay their school fees. And after months or stuff, the people disappear. What do you do? So it is for people to approach lawyers. But then, yeah, I'm giving this information there. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. So people should know, and then people should take it into their hands. When there's mass pressure, people take it more seriously than when people are just lukewarm, nonchalant, not my business, stuff like that.
Yeah, the guy who was the point I talked about intoxication. He said, "I say what has been decided authoritatively by the courts. No need for emotional discussion. Consent and duress are justifications for rape. Read the judgment in R.V. Lineker 1995." So I think you should check that out now. And it says that if the perpetrator is insane or if the perpetrator was intoxicated, you can use these criminal defenses to justify the charge of rape. Insanity can be used to justify rape where the insane perpetrator is suffering from a disease of the mind. So that's where our
That's what I said, that there are mitigating circumstances, and it's on a case by case basis. But which year was that case decided, right? What were the surrounding circumstances?
1995.
It's a long
Where
time.
was that?
Because the judgment is R.V. Lineker.
And now there's a criminal procedure, there's a penal code which has been amended. So which law was used to hear that case at that time? There's a lot, there's a lot, yeah.
So, but in layman's terms, if you are raped, you have a case. Is there a chance?
Of course.
The courts?
And you can even be intoxicated and mad, but the intention can still be proven. There are just two aspects to criminal responsibility: the intention and the act. So if we can prove those two things, whether the person was really drunk or mad, what does madness mean? It just means that you are sick in your mind, but it doesn't mean that you cannot think somehow, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, Ngum, Tessie says, could it be that this last message was trying to pass a different message, maybe a message to say we should take every little step we can to protect ourselves against beasts, but not necessarily saying the beasts are right or to dictate on how ladies dress. Then she had an unfortunate brain freeze in trying to pass her message. So from that angle, is that even still justified?
I think it's a slippery slope that I just never want to go down, because then you begin to give people little loopholes, right?
Yeah.
I have my own idea of how people should dress. I have my own idea of how sometimes I see people in certain situations and I think this is not quite appropriate, right?
Yeah.
But that is just my opinion. I have no right to tell somebody who has their own free will, this is how you must dress. Because again, when you look at how about Muslim women who are covered with hijab, again, we talk about babies, women who are wearing kaba, wrapper. Look at all the women who have been raped in this whole situation in Cameroon. Women who are IDPs and so on. How many of them were indecently dressed? So the thing with that dressing thing is, it is a classic red herring. Literally, it's a distraction. Okay,
Yeah.
you take people away from the main issue. I don't even want to hear it. I mean, the people who religious people will call it a serpentine narrative, because it just takes you away from what you should be doing. Yeah, I don't want to hear it.
So there are some common misconceptions, or not misconceptions, I guess we'll call them myths about rape and and um, and sexual violence. So a lot of them are, if someone gets really drunk, it's their own fault if they end up getting raped. They should have kept themselves safe. What would you say to that?
Look, it's
Actually, you know what? Let me read all of them and then let's talk about all of them. If someone gets really drunk, it's their own fault if they end up getting raped. Women often lie about rape because they regret having sex with someone. If someone didn't scream or try to fight their attacker off, then it wasn't rape. If you are in a relationship with someone, it's always okay to have sex with them. People who were sexually abused as children are likely to become abusers themselves. Women shouldn't go out alone at night as they are likely to get raped. So we have all of these um, myths, because they are not misconceptions, they are myths, because these are just stories that people put around rape. In my opinion, I say these are just excuses that people frame around rape. What would you say?
I would say that people should not miss, like they shouldn't, how can I put it? Certain circumstances can put you at risk of certain things, but it still doesn't mean that if you fall foul of whatever risk mitigation. So, for example, I remember being a student in Manchester, and I remember the police putting out these things and telling us, when you're going to the club, go in a group and so on. And they are absolutely right, because the thing is, if you're in a group, you're less likely. These are just very sort of contextual, common sense things, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I've been in a situation where we're out in the club with a friend, her drink got spiked. Very luckily, we're in a group and we were able to sort of spot her. Now, this is, had she been by herself, that would have put her in a very difficult situation. But
Yeah,
then imagine if she had been by herself and a man raped her, would it have been justified? Absolutely not. The thing about people being sexually abused as children, that's true. There is a connection between being sexually abused and being abusive yourself. But then that doesn't always have to be the case. That doesn't always have to be the case. There are people who are survivors of child rape who end up being activists, who do amazing things. So again, it's also usually about the kind of support that you get, the kind of care. And even if you went ahead and did it, that wouldn't make it right. It wouldn't.
yeah. Marie, I'm going to ask you a question, especially from your psychotherapy background. What would you say is rape a behavioral or a mental disorder?
But
Both.
yeah,
Explain more.
because on the behavior side,
Yeah.
children pick up what they grow up seeing. So if you see your parent, you know, because rape is all about control. So before you even get to the penetration, there is already the harshness, there is already all of that, in
Mm-hmm.
one case or in one way or the other. So you see that and you think it's okay to seize it what you want. It's okay to cheat a woman, for example, that you are the man, or we are talking about man now because where most of the cases coming up recently are all men raping women, right? So
Yeah.
yes, the behavior is a lot conditioned by the way you grew up. Okay, and now mental problem, a mental illness is when there's that disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be a behavior gone wrong to the point where there's a disconnect and then it becomes a disorder. So
Mm-hmm.
because of that disconnect, you think it's okay to cease. You don't think again. Look, the man in that film, he was loving at some point at the beginning. I saw him give you a hug.
Mm-hmm.
But then he's the same person who defied you later in bed. He wasn't seeing you as that loving woman anymore because in his mind, he was stuck and life wasn't making any sense to him anymore.
Yeah.
So, yes, but more often than not, let me also say it is not mentally ill people who rape people. On the contrary, people want to use that as an excuse and say, oh, I was mentally ill, I'm schizophrenic and stuff. No, 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 no. Mentally ill people are usually very peaceful people. They're more concerned about their own health and well-being. They don't go around causing havoc like that.
Angel is asking, is spousal rape recognized in Cameroon? Does the law recognize spousal?
No, no, no. If the Lord did, I would have sued my ex-husband big time.
Serious.
The law
Anyway, in the UK, it wasn't recognized till, was it the 60s or 80s? It's relatively recent. That's terrible. That's really terrible.
is there how can we is there what is the process of trying to like change a law in Cameroon? Is it a
Nothing.
You have to put
I want to get
you have
behind.
to put pressure, or you have to write to a parliamentarian, you have to put pressure, and then they will now have to propose a bill, and then that bill will have to be voted upon, and then after the vote, the president will have to pass a decree of implementation. So
basically, we need a lot of money to bribe to change the law.
no, I beg, don't call me on that one.
That's me. You didn't say that. That's my interpretation.
Yeah, I mean, can I just pick up on the point where
Sure.
you said something
Sure.
about saying if you don't scream? I say this because, we come from a society that is also very religious, for want of a better expression. People take
Yeah.
a lot of cues from their Bible or what they think is their interpretation of their Bible. And I think there is a bit in the Bible that says something about if you don't scream, if a man is in a position with you, you will also be punished. And I remember watching a video about this, and a Bible teacher clarified this point by saying that these are metaphorical expressions, okay? It literally means that if you didn't cry out in protest,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like if you were in cahoots with this person, then this was an adulterous fornication situation. So, and I've heard this said before, and I really want to clarify that there are reasons why people don't scream when they are raped. Marie is a psychotherapist, who will probably be able to back me up on this. But there is a thing where when people are in a situation where they feel overwhelmed, they literally detach from the situation and they freeze.
Yeah.
You have the fight, flight, or freeze. When you're faced with a challenging circumstance, there's three things you can do: fight, or you can flee the scene, or you can freeze. And this is very common in children because they are so overwhelmed that they literally cut out of that situation.
Yeah.
And if you as you grow older, if this is a response that you've had, particularly as a child, the freeze thing can become frozen, for want of a better expression, in your memory. And even as an adult, you can find yourself, even as a woman, in that situation, and you just sit there.
Yeah.
Literally, everything about you is screaming that you don't want this thing, but
Yeah.
you don't know. So when people seem to be going along with things, sometimes they are not really going along. They are in freeze mode. I really need people to understand this. There is a huge amount of psychological data to back up what I'm saying. It's free on the internet. Please look it up.
And I mean, you're right, Boom. And I also want to say that you want to protect yourself. You don't know how violent this perpetrator can be, right? If you start screaming, he can slash you. He can, and some of them. I have a friend. She's in France. We work together. She was raped by some people. She was just going back home from school. She was in secondary school, so she was in her school uniform, and but she was from after classes. After 6 p.m.
Yeah.
somewhere in a day, and then they just cornered her with a knife. There were
Yeah.
three guys,
What are
and
you
then
gonna
they
do?
took her into an
I think we've lost Marie.
into that who should do what at that time. So she
Exactly.
just
Survival.
dissociated. That's why I would call it in psychology. She dissociated. I've dissociated myself a few times too in my childhood, and sometimes even as an adult. There are times when I dissociate. So then she just came back. People were over her. Were like, "What are you doing here?" She didn't even know.
Yeah, it's a common response. It's a very common response.
I just want to, before I move on to the next question, I just want to read a few of the comments. So, um, Princess Nokos Kume says, I had a fight online with a lady yesterday based on some of her advancements on these issues you just mentioned for a sexual act to be considered rape. Now, I will bring in my own personal story, which I am sharing. I have a daughter with autism who has speech or verbal issues and maybe even more. Let's assume that in such a scenario, she can't scream for help. So, what will be the outcome? I know so many people are really ignorant about these issues. Yeah, and you agree with me that there, especially for us out here in the UK and Gombe, a lot of people with mental health, not mental, well, actually mental health disorder, what
Learning disabilities.
learning disabilities are often abused.
Yeah, absolutely. They are often victims again because a lot of them don't even recognize, their cognition is not like ours. So some of them even get to the point where they normalize this behavior. So until somebody then picks up on it and says this is not right,
Mm-hmm,
then it becomes a problem. I mean, it's interesting. I was talking about this at work, I think, with some friends, where even sometimes if you're sexually abused from childhood,
mm-hmm,
if you don't have anything else to compare it with, people do normalize this.
Yep.
So there was a story in the UK where a little girl was, for many, many years sexually abused by her uncle. And it wasn't until she got to secondary school and then she was talking to friends and just talking very sort of, as if this was a normal thing. And her friends were like, no, 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 this isn't normal. And they took her to the teacher before the case got investigated and the uncle got prosecuted. But this is it. If you don't know the difference,
Yeah.
if you have nothing else to compare it to, you wouldn't even know.
Bell
And then
says,
there's also trauma bonding, so
Yeah,
yeah,
it can
yeah.
become the new normal for you. So I
yeah.
mean, let me better keep this than go try to find something else out there.
Yeah,
And I think that's is similar with domestic abuse, isn't it?
yeah, yeah,
That
Mm-hmm.
same
yeah.
same situation. Bell
So,
says that 60% of rape victims are below 15 years. So how do you expect them to be drunk? Bell, where's that statistics from? Is that 60% of rape victims worldwide or from Cameroon? Let me know where that's from.
it will be interesting to know.
I
I
want
mean,
I want to read something just before
please go ahead.
we go ahead. Um so there are several types of races. I want to define. I don't know if I should define rapists. I'm sure for all of us watching this, we know who a rapist is. But there are several types of rapists. There is the opportunistic rapist who seizes any chance for sexual gratification, and then there is the such as like the less loss of self-control on the part of their victim. So if they are with you and you're drunk, they seize the opportunity. There's the sadistic rapist whose motivation is just to humiliate and degrade victims, and often that stems from anger issues or that that
Yeah,
he has had towards children in his towards women in his childhood.
yeah,
And the vindictive rapist as well has anger and aggression focused directly towards women. So such a rapist believes that he is right, he's permitted to sexually attack women because he feels he has been hurt, rejected, or wronged by women in the past. So I'm defining these three different kinds of rapists to say that on from which point of view would you want to blame the victim when
thank
these
you,
people already are sick in the head? Well,
thank
I mean,
you.
maybe that's making an excuse for them, but you know what I mean by them being sick.
Yeah. Let's be very frank about what rape is. Rape is a sexual perversion. There is no other way to look at it. And I'm very glad that you broke these things down. I've known about them, but not in that level of classification.
Yeah,
If you hate women, you're gonna hate women, whether they are wearing kaba or they are wearing shorts. So the more you even look into this thing and you really elevate this debate to a sophisticated level, then you just begin to see what nonsense, talking about dressing is. It is just the most simplistic, the
yeah,
most empathy devoid thing to
mhm,
even look at.
yeah.
And rape is also used as a weapon of war.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Yes.
the first time it was recognized like that was actually by Cameroonian judge Justice Array at the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda in Arusha. I actually also worked at that tribunal, so I
mm.
met her there.
Yeah,
She
Florence
was the one.
Barrington.
She was the one who set that pace and set rape, because the amount of rape in Rwanda, it could not be put on junk and dressing and all of those things. They deliberately targeted these beautiful Tutsi girls or women to rape them, to kind of disempower their men.
Yeah,
Seriously, any right thinking man will instead be mad when a woman is raped, or
yeah.
let me say their woman or their sister or their mother, because
Mhm.
that is like they've just destroyed your fiber. You came from woman and then that woman is raped. What else can come from that woman? So
Exactly.
you don't want to touch that woman anymore. So for me, seriously, this other thing of trying to even look at rape from another angle is like, that is opportunistic. But now who takes advantage of another? Who takes that kind of? Is it not a weak man? Is it not somebody who cannot like ask a lady out and build a relationship?
Yeah.
Seriously.
So
100.
what is the solution? So we know all of this, we know. And I see that Belle is saying that this is something that she's been working on, and I didn't know about that. Belle something says we've been trying to create
We
something.
work together. Mhm.
Okay, you work together, great. So what? So to all of us who are watching this, and we are like they say, louding it out. What is the solution? What do we do? How can we reduce this and hopefully eventually stop this occurrence in our society? What can we do? What's the next step forward? TWE tribe. What do you guys suggest? Marie, I'll start with you.
I look at it from two angles, the problem from prevention and from protection. For me, prevention would be good, very good, and protection also, or rehabilitation, of the victims. Because whether I would like it or not, there are already many victims, and those victims will have to be rehabilitated. If not, they might become perpetrators too tomorrow. There are a lot of people
Yeah.
who are abusing today because they were abused as kids. But prevention is also very good. We don't want these kind of things to happen. It is wrong. And if we say we are in a country or in a community where is it, I don't know how many percent are Christian or religious or stuff, you don't fear God enough to not defile another human being,
Good point.
especially a child.
Good
Because
point.
I've really worked with children. I've worked with children, and I mean, the last case is my grandson who even referred me to this case, sent me to go and see this child. Be seeing her again tomorrow. She's 18 months and she was raped by her grandfather who is 66.
Never.
So, okay,
What?
what are you
Her
going to say
grandfather
about
was
that child?
her grandfather was
66, and he also raped an 8-year-old child. It is actually the rape of that 8-year-old child that led to the discovery of the rape of his grandchild. Yeah, so the 3-year-old child who was raped by this 33-year-old guy. So that's why when I read those kind of things, trying to make cases for rape, I'm like, I mean, I was away from social media for 3 days. I was just sick.
I mean, that is just
So
disgusting to me.
what we have to say stop, and that is why I love the campaign started by Bell's organization, the Network for Solidarity, Hope and Empowerment. It starts with me. Like, if everybody starts to talk about rape the way you are talking today. Growing up, I didn't even hear about rape. It was something like, no, don't talk about it. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't even know who I could talk to. It
Mm-mm.
took me years to even think I could talk to somebody in all my cases. So it is like, if we start talking about this, normalizing the conversation. Last year we organized a walk, solidarity walk and sensitization, where very few people came out. Maybe I used only social media and stuff like that, but if people come out, people hold placards, people talk, that is also the kind of pressure, civil society pressure, that will get members of parliament to sit up and take this whole thing seriously. There's a lot that they are thinking of, and I don't think rape is one of the. Maybe that is why the law says that, well, if there's a subsequent marriage, well, mm,
Well,
then the status of limitation is 2 years. So for these children, for example, they will not be able to ever take these people to court.
right.
So it is for the parents or the families to also hit the rod. What do you say? Hit the iron when it's still hot.
Yeah.
So if something like that happens, please just take action immediately. Go to the hospital, for example, so that this child can be administered those antiprophylactics, and a medical certificate can be established. Because if you don't go immediately, then there's no more trace of proof of rape. Something can happen. But people don't go immediately. People maybe first go to church for prayers, or people start believing in some evil spirit or stuff like that. So there has to be a mind shift. That's what I really think.
And before Ngum, you give your point, I want to read some comments from Kami Musa says talking about rape is not really the issue. It's what we focus on when we talk about it. It's the narratives that normalize it. Yes, let's talk about it with fresh and relevant perspective. Ngum.
Yeah.
And Ajuse says, no, that's not what I want. Any rapist here, I want to talk about communication. Bell says we are normalizing the conversation around rape and it would deter the rapist. But I really want us to really be strategic, because I like what communities say about the conversation. What is our
Yeah.
conversation? Even if though we are normalizing it, in what terms, in what way are we normalizing it that can deter the rapist?
Yeah. I'm very glad Comi's on here. She has one of the most refreshing perspectives on this. And so also Comi is a journalist. And we've agreed, all of us here, we know the power of the media. We know how journalists can shape narratives. So we need journalists to be more, to take the more sophisticated round on this. I'm begging you guys, because like Komi said, if you watched her video yesterday, and if you didn't, please go on her page. It's still there. People will focus on what could have made this man do it, or this woman. Oh, now which? Oh, he, they will always come up with something. So you start shifting now to the different things. Oh, what was she wearing? Oh, now witchcraft. And then if it comes to debate now, hey, which they happen or not, or whatever, you lose the whole thing. So you want journalists to direct this conversation, to look at what is really going on here. What are the effects on the victim? The focal point of any discussion on rape, I'm sorry, is low quality if it's not elevating the victim.
Yeah, I agree with you. Marie,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, about I mean, I know you've talked about, but the conversation. How do you think the conversation should go? Do you agree with Komi and Ngum?
But that's what I've been saying, right? I'm,
No,
I'm
I
not
know, but
interested in. Mm-hmm.
no, I know
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
you've been saying,
Mm-hmm.
but just to add to that after she spoke.
No, I do agree with them, and I'm a lawyer too. I'm a psychotherapist. I'm solution oriented. I'm not cause oriented and all of that. Somebody has been raped. Somebody has been raped.
Exactly.
Whatever is that going to help me? And then, well, don't rape. Either we prevent it or no, not either. We do both. We
Yeah.
strive to prevent and then we protect.
Yeah,
Those who have already been raped and traumatized and everything, I'm not interested in those surrounding circumstances at that time of the case. It's not a court case for me at that particular time. It help that person
Yeah.
because people can go from one trauma to something drastic
Yeah, they can
if
commit
nobody
suicide.
helps them. People should be free to speak up. And we don't have to come out to lash out at people when they speak up, like, why are you speaking up now? What were you first of all doing there? All
Oh,
of this.
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, 20 years on, why are you talking
Why
about
you
it? Because 20 years, I couldn't find my voice. And I
exactly?
think it's also important. Another thing, somebody brought this up on Facebook yesterday. Families. There are families that care more about their reputation than the welfare of their children. I know of cases where issues of rape have been swept under the carpet because people did not want to rock the boat in the family.
Yeah,
I am begging every family head who is watching this. You have no idea how traumatizing that can be. This is why some people grow up resenting their parents or resenting their uncle or aunt. We don't even know why, but the sooner people actually begin to care about the truth as family, I don't care if it's your brother who has raped your child. Are you really going to tell me that your relationship with your brother is important than your relationship with your child? They
Okay.
have to,
I'm
they
going
have
to.
to address this issue. They
Mhm.
really do.
Thank you. Um, Holly says, women, believe it or not, we need to cut ties with rape apologists because they are not trustworthy. Anyone who victimizes a victim can victimize even family or very close friends. They are not honest. And then somebody asked the question again about what rape apologists. Why do you think that most women, there's a lot of noise, I don't know who it is. Why do we think that most women are apologists? And by rape apologists is women who, when a woman is raped, they will always come to defend, to accuse the woman or victimize the woman further by asking, what did she do? Why was she, blaming the woman for being raped? Why do we think that it is mostly women? We have seen, especially personally, I've also seen that recently on these cases of rape. Why is it mainly women who are rape apologists?
I think because women tend to be more expressive than men about these things. So they probably, whether they actually represent the majority of rape apologists, I'm not quite sure. But also, there's a thing called social conditioning. We know from many other things that women have just been socialized to accept these very low estimations of themselves. It's always, tumbanyas fighting it out over this man who's just there chilling. Or it's always women who enforce widowhood rituals, as we talked about. It's always, you will hear women say things like, oh, women are wicked, women. So there's just this conditioning of women to hate themselves. So I'm not surprised. It doesn't surprise me.
Marie?
I think women feel threatened by other women, because as Boom says, social conditioning, we think that there's this, I don't know if it's a myth or what, but it's like there are few men and there are many women, so we have to fight for the men's attention. So we have to be the good ones, and then, actually make them see that the other ones are the bad ones. So if a woman is raped, good riddance, one less competition. And if she used to
Terrible.
be threatening you in any way, look, listen, if she used to threaten you or make you feel bad, say some people coming after Daphne, it's not because they believe her, they don't believe her. It's because they used to feel bad, like, look at
Yeah.
this young girl,
Thank
she's
you.
already doing all of that. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
good. So she too, she has that kind of
Let's see a
skeleton
flaw
in
in
her
her.
closet. Good. We are going to use it now to shame her.
Mm.
And by shaming her, we shame every other woman so that we are the good ones now.
Mm.
Too bad.
That is something.
It's a sad truth.
It's true, Marie. That's something that you really touched on.
Now, I don't know if you're going to come to this, but I would like us to talk about the traumatic effects of rape on a victim. Because maybe if families know, they are going to take it more seriously. Sometimes they don't know, and they think their reputation matters most. And then
Yeah.
at that time, if the victim is small, the victim cannot, you don't expect it doesn't manifest at that time. So
Yeah.
they think that, oh, it's past.
Yeah.
And then later on, it project. I know a lady, for example, who has not been able to have a child up to today. She was raped, and well, maybe something happened to her womb. I don't really know. And other ones is just psychological. They cannot allow a man to touch them again. That is how bad it
Yeah.
affected them.
Vaginismus, probably.
Yeah.
Probably
Probably have been that.
vaginismus.
So
Yeah.
let's talk a bit more on that, Marie. You've led to lead with that. The traumatic effects of rape, the different types.
You lose your self-esteem. You start being so scared. For example, these little girls, you can see some of them. I work with them, I make them play, I make them, I take them out, all of those things.
Let's hope it comes back.
They close up
Mm-hmm.
because of the fear that was instilled in them. Remember, some of those children, the man tells you, if you tell anybody, I'll kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the child is scared of telling anybody. And then when the child, and it is discovered, in most children, it is just discovered when somebody wants to bait them or something like that. They don't even know how to tell you exactly what happened and how they feel. They cannot even express themselves very well. But they can at least protect themselves by closing up on themselves. Imagine they growing up like that. They get to school now, they're being bullied because they're already this kind of introvert child. Nobody knows what was their history, and they cannot tell their friends. If they even try to tell one friend, the friend takes it and start, whoa, they rape her, they rape her. There's one young Muslim girl I was working with too. She just wrote back or papers, I don't know. She did not want to go to school anymore because she told one friend, because it was her schoolmates who raped her. So it's like they know in the whole school, and so she couldn't write her exam and
Oh
all
my
of that.
God.
I've been working with her, yes. So she has become something else now. Imagine her growing up now that way. She has lost her self-esteem, no self-confidence, no self-worth. She can either become promiscuous, sexually promiscuous, or she stops. She doesn't want to have any intimate relationship anymore. Either of the extremes, that is you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, we lost you there for a
That
minute.
a rape puts you in that position. Okay, yes. A rape puts you in that position where you have to choose an extreme. Either you numb yourself by drugs, by drinks, by anything. You go sexual promiscuity, to forget about all of that, or you close up completely and you become like a hermit or any of those things, but with so much bitterness in you, to the point where you either abuse other people to kind of revenge, or you just cut up completely. Either way, that doesn't help that family, that doesn't help
Exactly.
you, that doesn't help society, right?
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
go. You go.
I mean, Marie, just listening to you there, these are things that, I've come across. So they are nothing new to me. But to really hear an expert like articulate it again, it just gives me chills because everything you have said is completely true. And to me, the thing that is for me is really terrible about it is that every one of us is born right and we have free will. as an inalienable right, as you call it. This is something that is God given. So for somebody to rape you, they are saying to you that your free will doesn't matter. They are not even just playing God, they are going above God, because even God himself has given you this thing, you accept him or reject him. But somebody who is a rapist is saying that I don't care. And I mean, what a violation. And also, just like you said, that how rape can change somebody. Because can you imagine, like, some of the girls that you're working with, or you see somebody who is like in their 20s or 30s or even 40s, deeply traumatized, and you don't you even wonder, like, how different would their lives have been had they not been, violated like this? So yeah, it's the loss of self-esteem, all the things you've said, the promiscuity, because you've attached your self-esteem to this sexual thing, this external thing. So it is, when we come here and we are saying stop rape, we are not just joking. If people really understood what these things did to people, oh, it will be much harder for you to go around saying you were wearing a short skirt.
So, Mr. Daniel Kanye, who was on the show, he says society focuses too much on the rape victims. We have to start creating non-judgmental, confidential platforms where individuals with rapist urges can seek for help or support in dealing with such urges. It is good for us to stop rapists by helping them learn techniques to manage sexual urges. What do you
I
guys say to that?
that.
Marie, and
Yeah,
anybody?
I spoke with somebody the other day, and I work with VOPS. VOPS is run by the Sisters of St. Therese or something. It is VOPS means victims, offenders, and prison support. So I volunteered with VOPS for 3 years at Douala Prison, Kondengi. So I also defended rapists, I defended them. So I heard a lot about why they rape.
Oh, we've lost Marie. Do you want to carry on that?
We
So,
will get that.
not
Yeah.
safe spaces for victims, safe spaces for the rapists. That's what he's saying.
Yeah. So I think he started by saying we focus too much on victims.
Mm-hmm.
I respectfully disagree. There can never be too much focus on victims. They're the ones here who are like have been left the most devastated. So
Yeah.
they will remain my priority. Having said so, he's right that there needs to be a space, because again, like we said, when we're looking at why people do these things, if people were traumatized, excuse me, then we need to find ways to help them heal of that trauma. If people are having these urges, why are they having these urges? We really need to know. And I have to say that this week I've also been impressed because, one of the things that we don't address, we look at rape as if it is something very out there. It's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Rape is very deeply entrenched in our cultures. I
Yeah.
can tell you that I've been in situations where, as a teenager or even in my 20s, to I look back now with surprise, these things were they were at least sexual harassment.
Yep.
Okay. But in our society, some of these things had been so normalized.
Normalized. Yes.
So
I find
there
that.
was when two people I know actually said on Facebook, these conversations have made them reflect. And they've looked back at things that they did when they were younger men, and they look back now and they're like, whoa, what we did was not right. I
Yeah.
mean, one of them went to the point of apologizing to this person, which is a commendable thing to do. So, just, because you've done something in the past that is bad, we're not saying that you should just lock yourself and connect. No, look, there is also room for improvement. There's room for reflecting and saying, I made a huge mistake and I'm going to be a better person, especially if you find yourself a parent. How would you feel if this was done to your child?
Marie, we lost you there, but
Welcome back, Marie.
Thank you. So I was saying that I worked with VOPS for 3 years. I volunteered with VOPS, even before becoming a psychotherapist, I was already doing counseling in the prison. For some reason, a lot of these guys gravitated towards me, including one. The last time I worked there is when I handled the case of a guy who sodomized 3 boys. I was like, no, I've had enough. This could be my children. I've had enough. But yeah, there are different reasons. And as Mr. Tanyi says, we could, but that would be somebody else creating that kind of platform. I will not create that kind of platform. I don't want to help those people. Sadly, not even sadly, that's not me. I don't want to do that. Somebody else, he himself can do that. I want to work with victims. I want to help the community take action to stop rape, to prevent rape from happening. And when it happens, I want to help victims heal.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's more important. If somebody also picks up helping perpetrators heal, if they can even come up and talk, that's something else. But between me and you, if they rape your child, even if that perpetrator comes and stands in front of you, would you want to listen to him at that time?
I'm an extremist because I think and Nigeria passed that law which I'm recently, which I'm so grateful for, that anybody caught raping will be castrated. That's my take, my stance
That's
on
the real
it.
thing.
So I don't know about creating a platform.
Yeah, because if they castrate you, they can even help you now to reintegrate society, no problem. But at least the risk is taken care of.
Well,
Yeah.
if that's what
Yeah,
if that's what will prevent you from entering the kingdom of heaven, get rid of it, right? So,
exactly.
it's interesting you talked about the sodomy situation, because it will be interesting to see if that's something that happened to him before as well. Because even though they say that this is inconclusive in research, these tendencies sometimes can be informed by sexual abuse. So, that's out there. But again, for there is space. For people who are having these urges, I would really rather they had it out there. But like
Yeah.
you said, Marie, somebody needs to create that. And like Mr. Tani?
Exactly.
Yeah, if he could, and again, I would love to see a lot of men take. I mean, okay, though, before you come at me and say men are not the only rapists, it's true. It's a very real thing that women rape. But, yeah, there is room for that sort of thing. There is room for that sort of thing. I certainly see the sense in it. Yeah.
Um, Tessie says, Goretti, I cannot help but keep reflecting on the discussion we had a few weeks back on relationships. And I think the advice was that men should never be denied sex because it is their right. To be honest, I've not stopped wondering about that particular thing, and it just doesn't sit well to me. If we keep accepting that we must let men or our husbands have sex when they want, even if we are not in the frame of mind, is that not another version of rape? Oh, see. Let the expert Marie start. It is spousal rape
No,
is a
I
thing.
don't want to talk about it. I'm sorry, it triggers.
Okay, okay.
Sorry about that, Marie. We can skip this topic if you want.
Yeah. No, but I'm going to read something that I think we really should be aware of. There was this is quite very old research from 1979 by a doctor, a PhD, in 1976, a PhD candidate at Claremont Graduate University, who did a research on over 200 rapists. So when he placed the ads, initially they didn't come through, but when he was anonymous, they came through. And he found that, number one, 79% of rapists know their victims very well. They
I
are
don't
people
disagree with
that
that.
know very well. And I think that's the point that I want us to talk on. Because so many of us, if 79%, and this is 1976, so if 79% of the rapists are people we know very well, are we, and I think we had this discussion some weeks back with on sexual abuse with Rosemary Fonkwa. Are we aware? How are we monitoring? How are we would I say protecting our children or ourselves? If you think that 79% of the men, so what? Try and put that in numbers. So if 79% of a group of 200 men, 79% of them knew their victims very well. What does that say, especially in our society like Cameroon? What does that say? Are we aware of that fact? How are we protecting our children? What steps can we take? Not just our children, protecting ourselves as well.
Yeah. Marie, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, in all the cases I have handled, let me say 33, maybe 4 cases where people who didn't know the victims or they didn't know the perpetrators. And for children in particular, the perpetrators want to get close to you and groom you and make you trust them so that there is no hindrance, there's no betrayal. They want to have free access and have it for as long as possible. That is why you hear somebody rape me for so and so period or stuff like that. In rare cases, it's just a one-time thing. But in some cases, especially with children, they want it to continue. That's the idea behind the perpetrator's mind. And then even in adults, you have this thing called when you go out with your boyfriend and you people were not yet at the level of intercourse, right? And so they have to jog you to do that. So they have to first get you to really trust them and then, be free with them. And then they do that. And then even spousal rape is it not your spouse? You know each other, but for some reason they think that, well, I'm having it this night, whether you want it or not. And then that is it. You find yourself bleeding.
You know, and this is not calling all men, but it is very scary to me to think that a study that was done in 1976 showed that 79% out of 200 men, 79% of them knew their victims. 79%. It's still
That's
just ringing in
right.
my head. Like, so are we basically saying that 1 in every 3 men you meet wants to rape you?
Well,
I don't
not
know.
necessarily, but it makes it very difficult. And then again, I keep going back to this dressing business. Does that even make sense? Does it hold water when you talk like this? Because it's true. I mean, there are incidences, and people will tell you these things in Cameroon where some uncle comes to the house, could be your own blood relative, or it could be a parent's friend, and they greet you a certain way, and they that's a look. Or
They did it to me too
I
many
remember in
times as
secondary
a
school.
young girl. Too many
Yeah,
times.
yeah, I remember in secondary school, a friend of ours told me a story where her father's friend came to the house, or her uncle's friend. She was raised by her uncle, and as soon as her uncle popped into the out of the living room to do whatever he went to do, next thing you know, that friend is chatting her up, you know. And had she been that type of child who was maybe just curious and wanted to, it could have ended up very badly. So people have to understand that, yeah, uncle comes here all the time. He comes one day when nobody's in the house. You don't mind, it's uncle. Before you know it, so it's this thing. This is why I think for me, I feel like, we grew up in a society where people were very open. Our parents were very trusting of people. But I'm sorry, if I had children today, I wouldn't be that trusting,
No, we
because
can't. We can't.
look
We
at the
can't.
stories that we are all telling now. I know people, I have friends whose children don't go to sleepovers, and I don't blame them. If I had a child today, no way. Sleepover for what? Play where I can see you. It means then that they get to miss some of the childhood fun, but you know what? They will be by far, being raped is just a whole other thing.
Oh yeah.
So I think nowadays we just have to accept society for what it is, as opposed to what we wish it was.
Okay.
So, as a parent, open your eyes, to be
Yeah.
honest. Let your children play where they can see them. All these people coming and telling your little children to sit on their knee and being all funny. No, just, I don't, I think even it was Dorothy Diamond, who said something about, like, even when people are saying to your child, my wife, don't. And I was like, yeah, actually, I don't really appreciate that. If someone said that to my child. So, yeah, I think parents should just be very watchful. If your child is going to be interacting with adults, please supervise.
Yeah.
And also be very careful. These days people are working. You have to have, you know, people to help in the house. Those babysitters, you have to vet and vet and vet and check the children when you come back. I know people who had to have cameras installed in their houses when they were working, and people looking after their children. It's not
Uh,
easy. It sounds horrible, but if that's what's going to protect your child, do whatever
do
it takes.
whatever you have to do to protect your child. There's a question for Lambert Bomb as we come to the end of this conversation. Lambert is asking, without coming across as downplaying the rape of women, which is a heinous crime, is there any possibility of men being raped?
Of course, men are raped. I've worked with men who have been raped. It's just terrible, and they don't talk. Like we
Yeah.
must say, women are more expressive. I mean, I have one client that hold him very dear to heart. We went through years before he is where he is now. Yeah. And I just asked him out of curiosity because I was looking at all the angles to his issues and I wasn't seeing, why he wasn't letting go and why he wasn't moving on in one particular area. And I just asked him, were you abused as a child? Were you raped? And then that is the first time I saw him cry. Yeah.
And
there's even a little boy now. I sent you a picture. This girl and the boy by their father. Their father.
Oh,
Yes. So when we even talk of families protecting, sometimes it's even the family, the most intimate family that does that.
yeah.
So what are you talking about? That you give birth to children, even if those children are naked, should you touch your children? There's so much to talk about this thing. We just focus on one small aspect.
And I think that, and I'm going to say this, and I'm open to the men coming for me. There is a problem, men. There is a problem. It's a real problem among you. You need to have that conversation. So many of you are really sick. Like literally, I'm calling it out. So many men are sick. You masquerade yourselves dressed in the finest ways and pretend to be all whatever, but you are carrying some really dark thoughts. And I think it's time we started addressing the men to stop their
and you know, it is best for them to do it amongst themselves, because men don't open up to us. They will not. They will think like we want to control them and all of that. Is it today that it started? Yes.
The thing is, I think what you said, Goretti, I don't know about you guys, but you know, we heard these rumors of things that happen in particularly all boys boarding schools, right? So people could be carrying very serious burdens. But I think for me also, and this is where, you know, the dreaded word that people hate, but it exists, is patriarchy. It has set up men to be this thing that even they cannot achieve, just as they set up standards for women, they set up standards for men, in the sense that, you know, there's such a huge element of shame when a man is raped, because men are supposed to be like this untouchable, invincible thing of beings. So when a man is raped, if the shame for women, people can even accept it, but for men, and then even their own friends or their peers look at them like, you must have been weak, you must be. So for men, it's that thing. But I also feel, I don't know if this is just my experience, sometimes I think men talk to women easier than their own friends, because I've had a male friend, right, who is like, if you looked at him, you wouldn't, he looks very butch, it's a rugby player, okay? You know how tough rugby players are. But he's cried in my presence, and that was the best thing. I said, just go ahead, cry, because I know that you will never have this conversation with your friends. So I think sometimes men take advantage of your female friends, your relationships, your sisters, your female friends. But yes, if you can also talk with your guys, and for the men who feel more confident, please make it easier for your boys, because Goretti, you are right, and you showed it in that film. This guy was going through a lot. The reason why he couldn't talk to his wife was pride, because of what? I'm the man. I'm supposed to be the provider. Can I not have money? You know. So it's a thing. You know, patriarchy hurts all of us. Seriously, it hurts all of us.
These men, they're not serious. They need to seek help, because whether men are being raped or not in our societies and our different communities around the world, it is the perpetrators are 99% men,
because they're carrying things in them. I mean, it's interesting.
I don't want to. I can't make excuses, and I understand when Mr. Tanya is saying that we need to create a non-judgmental platform for them to express themselves. But I think, and I shouldn't say that because I'm a moderator, but I'm sick of it, because no matter how much we're talking, they are the ones who are doing the raping most of the time. So
and why is that? And why is that? I mean, there's a very good book. I don't have the title with me, but written by Thomas Sankara, who was just one of the finest African men to ever live. And he said something in speech to women. And he said something about, you know, a lot of the time, I think, Marie, you alluded to this, rape being about control. And again, it's this thing where men are held up to be this beings that they are not, right? Or that you put these people on a pedestal that they can't achieve. And so if he finds himself any way short of this ideal man that he should be, he's going to find ways to compensate. If he can't control outside, guess where he's going to look for that control?
Right there.
He's going to violate his wife. He's going to beat her. Sankara discussed this. Biko talked about it. These are, you know, African men. You people like your political heroes, right? Go and read Thomas Sankara in particular. Abeguna. You guys, that man had an incredible mind. Go and read Steve Biko and how he analyzed this situation. When men don't feel powerful outside, the home feels it.
The home feels their power.
And it's the same with women. When women now are oppressed by their husbands, the children feel it. The maid feels it. A lot of women in Cameroon are mean to their maids. Do you know why?
They're home.
that's going on in their marriage on them. So it's always that thing. And then the kid, it may be the older kid who now takes it out on the younger ones, or they go to school and bully other children. So do you see how this thing can trickle? You know, it's problematic. It's a social ill.
Yep. And like Cynthia says, even when men are raped, in most cases, the perpetrators are men.
Thank you. Repressed sexual desires.
Oh, I didn't even want to go into that one. You know, I've worked with a man of God. You know, I don't want to say priest. I'll say man of God. Let it be open category. And he was even suspended, you know, and stuff like that. But I mean, he did not, he tried to toe the line and go to seminary and everything. And no. But at one point he couldn't, you know, and he was like, let me just try and see. And after he tried and saw, it was like, oh my goodness. So he became what? A vagabond, like let loose. And then now they don't know how to tame him anymore. And so they sent him to me. Yes, I work with him.
That's a huge sexual disorder situation going on. And this is the thing, because, you know, we joke in our society a lot, you know, people would tell all these jokes about sex and make all these things. But, you know, years ago on Facebook, I wrote something like, we make all these jokes, but what about when it goes wrong, right? What about when it goes wrong? You hear a situation like Daphne's talking about, and I can assure you Daphne is not unique. She's just extremely brave to speak about it. We hear situations like what you've explained here with this man of God. I could almost bet my last penny that that man was raped by a man when he was young. And when these things are not dealt with, then they just spiral out of control. So you have these situations where people find themselves in this sexual trauma that is not dealt with, and then it expresses itself in these really terrible ways. So we need to have this ease of conversations about sex. Okay, we need to, with children, you know, I'm very proud to say that some of the people I know, friends, relatives, are raising the next generation very differently. They are having by far more open conversations. I have a niece when she was from about 5. Her mom started telling her, we stopped bathing that child. Okay, she learned how to bathe herself by 5. You couldn't touch her inappropriately. You know, her mom began to tell her, if somebody touched you there, this is not right. And that was very good, because she found herself in a situation where a peer, because children rape children, by the way. Okay.
Yeah.
Where a peer was like, show me this, that, that. She was like, no, that's wrong. And then she came and told her mom. So imagine if she had not had that conversation with her mother. So people really need to, even when children are, you know, when we were growing up, what did we hear about sex? Don't do it. All right. But there's got to be more to it than that. You have to tell people what is appropriate, what isn't, you know, why you should even not be doing it, you know, and all those things. So it is really important that we normalize this conversation, so that when things like this happen, you pick it up and you deal with it from a young age, instead of people, like you explained, him being a vagabond. That's very sad. It's, you know, that's a soul destroying way to live life.
And Lambert says that I spent 7 years in the seminary and I wrote about the temptations of an ex-seminarian. And one of them is managing repressed sexual desires. Boom, boom. Honestly, I
would love to read that book.
Yeah.
Even me.
Lord's Favor says, I would really love to hear men express themselves, especially why they don't open up. Why do they swallow so much? Again, patriarchism is the way we are raised.
The way they're raised.
I'm not raising my voice that way.
No,
we talk about everything here.
I love all of you. Like, if I could, there are some mothers that I just absolutely, you know, some days I sit and I say, if I had children, I wish I could even have boys, so that I'll raise them the way I want, you know. But it's really important. And I think a lot of mothers now are taking the responsibility. I'm seeing a lot of men, but I also, a lot of women, but I also want to say that fathers, please pay attention to your boys. I think of the dads I know, there's a few too who are doing a great job, but it's really important, because your boys will also imitate you. It's not just about telling your boys to respect women. They will see how you talk to their mom. They'll see how you talk to your own mother. They'll see how you talk to your colleagues, your female friends, your sisters, all those things. So yeah, we just need to raise another generation differently.
As Anred says, play is the beginning of some of this madness.
No lie.
It's true. It's true. I can relate. Oh God.
Anyway, stuff went down.
Sharp is asking, how early should parents talk about sex with kids? What age? And I think we have talked about it a few episodes ago, but let's just Everyone contribute. How early do you think? Somebody said earlier in the comments, as young as 2 years old.
I would say 5.
This is their world. Yeah.
Well, they're so exposed. So when I was growing up, I wouldn't lie. By about the age of 5, I was aware of sex. I don't know how, but I knew that stuff was going on. Yeah, I knew. Yeah, I
How
was. I was
naive.
aware. I guess because I grew up in a house, there were many people. There
Okay.
were adults. There were so as a phenomenon. I couldn't put things together, but I was aware of it. And then you go to school, certainly primary school, kids are passing notes, pictures, and all that. So even if you're keeping this very pristine environment at home, please know that your children are going out there and learning stuff. So yeah, for me, I would say maybe 2, I don't know, but certainly 5 before they get to school age, even before they get to nursery, because you just don't know the kind
Yeah.
of home where your kids are coming from.
Yeah.
Other kids are coming
Marie.
I started talking to them when they were 2 or even less than 2.
from. Wow.
I even went with Ali to his girlfriend's house when he was in nursery school. Yeah, and we invited her over for his birthday. At that age, what are they doing? Nothing. So tell them, so they just in a friendly way, and
Yeah.
gradually, I don't know. But I want to say something. We've talked about this thing. Look, we're having repressed sexual trauma. Can you imagine how many kids, boys were raped by Catholic priests when that scandal broke out?
Oh,
And that many of those cases were, whether it was the solved or bargain or whatsoever.
they're hardly ever
Can you imagine the trauma? Where are all of those
Where
boys?
are they? Where are they?
How many girls who were brought up in convents in Ireland or wherever? I've watched documentary upon
Oh,
documentary. Sometimes I'm like,
sad.
I don't even know whether I'm at the same page or all of these things. So there is so much going on,
Yeah.
so much. Rape cannot be limited to dressing. And
Mm.
yeah, men
Power.
rape men. Yesterday, I was watching something on YouTube. A lady whose 13-year-old son was raped by a pastor for 4 years in America. That pastor was just sentenced. It's on Dawson Channel, YouTube. I watch a lot of things from all over. And I was like, so you see, this is a boy. And that woman just trusted this man to bring up her son because she was a single mom and she was overwhelmed and everything. So let's be more careful.
Yeah. Be
Stop
careful
trusting
with stuff.
people to bring up your children for you.
Yep.
Teach the children. And my boys stay here alone. From years ago, when I'm traveling, no, I trust God, I pray and everything, and I live them and I talk to them and they stay alone. So they grew up being independent. Not like if I'm traveling, somebody is coming to stay here with them. I cannot tell.
You have to be careful, yeah. And also, just because somebody is in authority, it doesn't mean that they are trustworthy, because there are so many people who position themselves as men of God or whatever who are not real. I will say this. I was a very lucky beneficiary of the goodness of men of God, right? I grew up, my parents were very friendly with priests. So we were very, we grew up always being around priests. And my parents trusted us with these guys so much. When I left school, I would actually sit in their house and wait for my parents. So I always say that had these men been wicked, they would have taken serious advantage of me. But I sat there and I was eating, enjoying myself. Sometimes if my parents couldn't come, they would drop us off. So people who know Father James Sokika, big up to that man, may he rest in peace. He was like a dad to us. He was very amazing. We had 3 or 4 family friends who were priests who really took care of us. So when I first came here and I saw the stories of priests molesting people, I think my initial reaction was like, what? Because I had a very good experience of priests. Now, unfortunately, some people haven't had that experience.
No.
Then, I would say that even though I grew up with such good influences, there are men who, till today, I always think of them. But I wouldn't just leave my child in the hands of a man of God now, knowing what I know now.
No.
I just wouldn't. You would have to prove and prove and prove and prove yourself. I wouldn't just trust somebody because they were a religious authority or any authority for that matter. I don't care how brilliant you are, because the thing is, some of the most abusive people in society can also be very two-faced. They can put on this. You've heard the stories of men who batter their wives, but outside they're like these suave, charming people. So you have to be extremely careful. Yeah.
Yeah. You're talking about this, and I'm going to call out, or I won't call out the school, but I remember when I was in UB, and there was this story about this And it was kind of like gossip about this guy, and these boys were talking about, they were just talking about it among themselves, how this guy used to molest them, and it was known and it was normalized, and they said that's what he did.
Yeah, in
And now that you guys are talking about it, I'm thinking about those young men now as fathers, men in their 40s, and wondering if they've ever dealt with that, if they acknowledge that they were truly abused, and the effect it has on them as men now.
yeah, and more importantly, have they tried it themselves?
Have they exactly? I'm
Have
just
they
exactly
developed
you guys
certain
are talking,
kind
and
of desires to go right?
that's where my mind is going. Like, oh
Like
my
people
goodness,
are so many
you know,
things.
honestly, I mean, we can have this conversation all night and we will not come to an end. We're almost at 2 hours, and Marie needs her bits. So, in conclusion, Marie,
Yes.
I know, I think we all agree about you cannot blame the victim, the rape victim. But what are some solutions that we can give as take home from this conversation tonight? So for people, for victims, for um, rapists, although I don't even want to acknowledge them, but let me acknowledge them, to rapists and to people who are watching, to prevent, if they can, rape.
Okay, well, first thing, people who have those urges, please seek help. Don't want to go and experiment and take advantage and say maybe a small child, uh, her vulva is still firm, so I'm going to have the best pleasure. Yes, somebody once told me that, or somebody will say, oh, they said if I'm sick and if I sleep with a mad woman or with an albino or with
That
this or that, there's also that, right? No, none of those things work. And if you have a friend who even starts talking to you about those kind of things, just like if you have a friend who starts saying that they are fed up with life, you have to help them. So you can talk to them, you can seek help for them and stuff like that. People stop being scared of therapy. Therapists don't eat people, and I'm not going to reveal anybody's secret. I don't need to put my hand on the fire for that. Families, please take care of your children. Talk to them. That time when we say children are to be seen and not heard is past. Have conversations with your children. You have just 18 years to bring them up, or even less than 18 years. So spend those years, relating with them. If not, later on, you are not going to have any relationship. And if something like that happens to them, they're going to blame you. I know people here who still hold their parents in their heart saying, yeah, but I even told my mom and she did not believe.
yeah,
Believe your children when they come and say, and sometimes it could even be the first attempt and it did not really happen. They come and tell you and you don't do nothing. So, wow, the
time.
perpetrator knows, oh no, nobody's going to believe you. And so the next time he's breaking her hymen and stuff like that. I don't really have something to tell women, because even if you say she got drunk, well, anybody can get drunk. So, what can I say? Seriously, what can I say? It's like, do you go and put yourself in a home to be abused? Who gets married hoping that they are going to be beaten and abused and all of that? Nobody. So, I don't think there's any woman or any man who wants to be raped. No. So, even if you go out with friends, you are dressed, I'm wearing shorts right now, I mean, bumpers. Somebody's not going to come into my house and say, oh, you're indecently dressed. I can go to the road dressed like this. Why is somebody not catching me there? So for me, and I'm not even going to go there, I'm not a religious person or a Bible person. So maybe it's Gogu is going to talk about that. I'm done.
Well, I mean, I think the first thing is, to women in particular, I just want to say that sometimes we don't know our value, and this is for many, many reasons. And you have to work at that value. I've had to do it. When you grow up in a society that tells you that you're not enough, you have to literally battle that back, right? And there are so many ways that you can do it. You can use your faith to do it. You can use your own experiences, whatever. But I just need women to understand that they are valuable. And when you begin to understand that you're valuable, then you don't allow yourself to be abused. I've literally stolen this from a pastor, Pastor Philip. But it's the truth. Once you know your value, you don't allow yourself to be abused. And this is really the first thing that I want to say. I want to say to parents, when you're marrying somebody and setting up a family, what is really your idea of a family? What are you trying to create here? If you're trying to create something that's constructive, then you have to work at it. You have to value your children. Marie made a very good point. When we were little, children were just seen, right? But children deserve a voice, because when you don't hear these children, you will be amazed at what you miss. And one day you may sit there as an old man in deep regret because you did not listen to your children. And I think for the young people as well, it's hard. But we grew up being taught to respect for your elders is not the same as just blind deference. If an uncle, cousin, whoever is doing something, speak up, scream if you can, run. If it's not even your mom or dad, if you have a auntie, uncle, somebody who can listen to you, please say something. Don't sit down and think that, oh, because if I talk, they'll say I'm disrespectful. No, no, no. Speak to somebody. Speak to somebody. If you don't know anybody, inbox me, because I feel so strongly about this that I would even connect with somebody that I don't know. There are organizations in Cameroon. I think Goretti, I'm going to give you some names. The people that I know, apart from you, Marie, who's dealing with this, I think Komi Musa. Many of you know as a journalist, Komi helps a lot. I think she does some work with the church. She does stuff with her own organization, Sister Speak. I think I found out yesterday about a lady called Martha Monono. She's based in Douala. She has a group called First Ladies. I think it's part of her ministry, Do Something as well. And some other one, Tantine, something, the Tantine Renata. I'll send it all to you. But I think also, like Mary was saying, people don't even know where to go. So people began to know these resources. And I think the Baptist Mission in Bamenda, I know they have counseling services. I commend the Baptist Mission for so many things, generally the way they provide healthcare. So these things, I think it's just us taking the initiative, and don't be scared to speak up. Somebody will believe you even if your family doesn't.
Thank you very much, Gum. And before we go, guys, please stay on and answer this question, because the person who posed this question is in the comments, is watching tonight. So after our Q&A sessions last week, I got some questions in the inbox, but this one is very pertinent because it's happening right now, and he needed advice. So his daughter is back in Buea, and she was raped by her school friend, and now she's 2 months pregnant. And the poor child hid it. I mean, and this is rape. And the poor child hid it from her dad for all these months until she started. She didn't know she was pregnant, but when she found out she was pregnant, she had to tell them how she got pregnant. And the idiot boy who raped her has admitted that he raped her. So this man is confused that my daughter is only 18. I don't want to ruin her life with her having what should he do? Because he says that he just wants to, take away that pregnancy, but then he would throw it because sometimes he's being emotional. So what do you advise? What should he do? And he's watching, guys. So,
wow, that's a very tough one.
Yeah.
Marie, do you want to take this dilemma?
And anyone else who is watching?
Go, why the push up for me? I mean, like, what does the girl want now? She's almost 18. That's her body. If he can have a conversation, an honest conversation with her,
16,
then maybe 16, whatever the age, she can have a say. It's her body, and the thing is already far. Is it far advanced? Maybe 5 months. I don't know. So they look at the pros and the cons. 2 months. Okay, well, not too late. So on me, I'm not from any religious or anything point of view. So I'm like, have a conversation with her, honest one, and then take a decision. I don't know whichever decision you guys are going to take, but if you both agree to take that, don't impose on her what you want, because if something goes wrong, she's going to blame you for the rest of your life or her life. And let her not also do something and think that you don't have her back, because, I don't know. So that's all I can say.
The hard one.
I think for me, it's a very difficult one because, this is a child. The guy who did it, first of all, let me start with him. He needs to face the consequences of his actions, even if he's a minor.
Yeah.
Definitely needs to face it. That young girl needs a lot of care, a lot of support, a lot of counseling. I can't consider myself very liberal, but the one thing I've never been able to be pro is abortion. I've just never been able to do it. And for me to stand and tell somebody to have an abortion is just not something I could do. But also, I realize that for some people, they may think it's a solution, but it always isn't. I've seen people who have deeply regretted that decision. So I think it's a very, very difficult one. It's a very difficult one. But I would say that also that child just needs a lot of love. And if they continue, if they are already seeking some kind of help, some kind of support, pastoral support, or just therapy, give it time and think about it and try to figure out the solution. But I think that it's just some it's an extremely tough one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
actually.
whichever way, you will never know the future, but you know it's just a very difficult one, because whether you like it or not, a new human being is here, and I just have absolutely no right to say that that child doesn't have the right to live. That's kind of like my stance on it.
Well, there's a lot of recommendations or in the comments. So I know you're watching. So if you read the comments, people are giving you their suggestions. But honestly, thank you guys for you know being here, for having this conversation, especially Ngum and Marie, for this for short notice, for coming through on short notice. I appreciate you, and especially Marie, who needs to go to sleep.
I know.
I know your bedtime.
Tomorrow.
Kept you. It's 10 o'clock. You need to be in bed. But I
Thank
really
you, Mary.
appreciate you.
9 p.m. even, so 1 hour late, and I was up at 4 a.m. That's me.
Oh no, you're way
No,
past
but
your
I
bedtime.
appreciate you so much. And this was our own contribution to this rape. I still choose to call it Ngum Amari epidemic in our community.
It is an epidemic. You're not. I'm telling you, it's so deeply entrenched in the
Yes.
culture.
So I think that we hope that you have taken something from this conversation, and we really do hope that we can, in our own little ways, and Bell, Funky, and Community, and all these ladies who are doing something, and Mimi, who added us to that group. Let's continue to work together to really come. Let's all join forces together to do something. With the help of Maria and all the other people in Cameroon are doing this. Let's do something monumental that can actually create a visible shift in the direction we are
Yeah.
going. I know that. So, but I thank you guys. Any final words to your guests? Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, guests. But today I'm here, but I know that there are usually so many people watching, and it's a very lively community. So that's also one of the reasons why I accepted to come back. I had told myself I'm not coming back on your platform again. As a guest.
Mhm.
Sometimes you don't want to be talking, you want to be listening, you want to be having the fun. When you're the one throwing the comments left and right, la 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 la, it's more fun. So thank you so much, guys. Thank you, well, for asking me, right, and and thank you, Go. I really appreciate the time, but I really just want to tune off.
All right. Thank you, my dear.
Good night, Mary. Good
Well,
night.
good night. We're going to kick you from backstage, and good night.
Good night. Say hello to your kids.
Anyway, Ngum, so Ngum, actually, before we go there, just a couple more questions.
Okay, that's fine. I can take them.
I know you can.
I can.
And also, this is for us, the community. Please, let's. Well, before we go, is it advisable for a rape victim to talk with her rapist?
I think it depends at what point you are, because I've watched these things where I don't know, Goretti, if you know of something called the Forgiveness Project, where you get people after a certain period, they get to face people who have done these really horrible things to them. And I saw one where a woman faced her rapist. For some people, that can be healing.
Yeah.
It just depends on the individual. For some people, that can help them to finally let go and forgive that person, and that can help. But for some people, that may even do more damage. So I think it just depends on the person. But I would say that as difficult as it is, there will come a point in your life where you will need to let go of that thing. And you may not want to hear this word, but forgiveness is also important in part of the whole therapy, because forgiveness is not saying that I think what you did was all right, let's just no. It's just, as someone put it, it's enlightened self-interest. There comes a point in your life where you just get to this point where you're so held by that bitterness that you need to break yourself out of that prison. So this may take years, but so if you can face that person and say, okay, I forgive you, good. But if you can't, you don't necessarily have to have that person there.
So it would. So So I hope that answered your question. And Belle was advising finally that we should let our girls know that in the event of rape, they should seek medical help immediately to avoid STDs and unwanted pregnancies. Exactly that.
Yeah, because
I
there's
did it.
legacy there.
Yeah.
Legacy. I mean, imagine it's not only bad enough that you're raped, you're left with, I don't know, HIV or herpes or something like that. So this is why people need to understand that the trauma here, it's huge. It's massive.
It's massive. And that's why I think I would always mainly be concerned about the victims because
They
the
have so much to lose. They're
yeah,
the ones who have the forgiving to do. They're
true.
the ones who, it's a huge burden. I it's just something, I don't know how anybody can even crack a joke about rape. I just don't.
Anyway, thank you so much, Gum. Thank you
You're
guys.
welcome. It was a pleasure. Thank everyone for participating. One of the things that I'm actually glad about this conversation, as polarizing as it's been, I've heard a lot of Cameroonian women really speak up and speak against it. So I'm really pleased. And also, men, I have to say, I've heard more male voices this time, and I'm really happy about it.
Yeah, I am too. But thank you, Gum. So I'm going to take you backstage now. Say good night to our guest.
Good night,
And
everyone. Okay, then. Bye.
bye. Oh, I can't thank you guys enough, honestly, for sitting down and staying for 2 hours for us to have this conversation. And I'm so glad that we did. And I'm so thankful to our guests, Ngum Gafo and barrister and psychotherapist Maria Banga, for their contributions and for coming up again at such short notice, honestly, because I think without beating the drum over and over again, all I'm just going to say is that there is no room for victim shaming, victim blaming, or whatever in a case of rape. Like, there is no room. We have to have these conversations in a way where we uphold the victim and we truly shame the rapist. Because if we change the narrative in that way, the rapist will understand, will maybe begin to understand the gravity of what it is their actions cause. And I remember this statistics is still playing in my head. 79%. I mean, this is 1976. 79% of rapists always know their victims. So be very careful with the men and women that are around your children or even yourself. Try as much as you can not to put yourself in, any dangerous. You never know really with life, but you know what I mean by that. Just try as much as you can not to put yourself in any dangerous situation. And if you know of a girl who has been abused, if there's one thing I'm asking you tonight is listen to her. If she's been raped, listen to her and believe her. Victims need us to believe them so that they can gain their voice. If we believe them, they gain their voice and they speak out. So if you know somebody who tells you, even in passing, even if they are shy about it, in whatever way communicates to you, or even a boy, that they have been raped, please believe the victim. It starts from there. And so thank you very much. We are back on Friday. You don't want to miss Friday's show. We will be talking to Dr. Celestina Tancho, and I want to thank Mimi for the connect, who is going to be talking about the importance of the role of a father figure in the life of our children and even us as adults. You don't want to miss that show. That man he's a solid, like, he has so much to offer. So I hope I'll see you on Friday, 8 p.m. And like I said, we're coming to the end. So from next week, our show, we're not going to have a show on Wednesday next week. It's going to be Friday. So from next week, it's our 50th show. So it's going to be on Friday, the 16th of October. And then from there, it's going to be a weekly show. But to the TWE tribe, you guys are the real MVP, man. You stood with me since April, and I can't thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. And, now we got this. And yes, so I want your feedback. If you watched the short film, if you were here when we were watching the short film, please go on YouTube, subscribe, and leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. And yes, is it Belle? Somebody left a comment about my bomb shot. Hey, I'm telling you, go and watch it. Let me know what you think. Spread it so that other people can take something. It's all about mental health, isn't it? So go on YouTube, subscribe, like our Facebook page, watch the short film again, and then share it if you found any value in it. So on that note, TWE, oh yeah, Thank you guys. Have a good night, and I'll see you on Friday. Bye bye.